I'm Jane Haig, and today we are having Izzy Wynn, and we are talking about three very different women, the mother of Jabez, Esther, and Job's wife. Izzy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so my family and I came to St. Margaret's 30 years ago, and we have watched the church grow and expand and become the most wonderful place. I'm so glad we're still here. The church has given me opportunities to be very active in the diocese, especially with Diocesan Council, where I've been vice president, the Climate Center, where I've been co-chair of the Capital Campaign. I've taken 6 international trips on behalf of the diocese. The most exciting one was taking the Curcio program to Ghana to introduce it to West Africa, leading a team of 30 people, half Ghanaians, for that experience. That was utterly amazing. And then more recently, leading and organizing groups from the diocese to the Holy Land on pilgrimages with Bishop Sutton.
So have passport, will travel.
Yeah, but doing it on behalf of the church has been absolutely wonderful.
I bet. Mm-hmm.
And, forgot, but I've been the grants coordinator.
You have been the grants coordinator.
And I still am.
You still are.
For St. Margaret's. Been doing that a long time. Yeah.
Yes, thank God. We're going to talk briefly about the mother of Jabez because it's not...
very brief.
Very brief.
She didn't say much.
She didn't say much, and her primary role was the fact that she did 2 things. One is she gave birth to a child who seems to be very important in the lineage of eventually the lineage of Jesus. So Jabaz, which means
pain.
Frankly, what woman does not give birth and does not have pain? But we're not going there.
But the fact that it was even mentioned. I mean, this is in, First Chronicles, which is sort of telling the lineage of kings and so forth and so on. And most of us don't find that exciting reading. And in the middle of the very confusing lineage, there's this little quote from the mother of Jabez that said, I named him Jabez because I bore him in pain. And then they go on with the lineage.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is that in there?
Right.
But that's what his name means. But I thought, most people don't give birth without pain. That comes with the territory thanks to Eve, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
and most recently, actually, somebody has taken the prayer of Jabez, and turned it into a book about the basis of our prayer of asking God for help and safety. So let's move on to Esther.
Thank you.
All
right. But
Esther was yet another queen.
She was a beautiful woman.
But they all seem to be sometimes.
Well, but that was part of it. She had to be she had to be virgin, and she had to be the most beautiful. And the king selected her out of many to be his most favored and married her. I assume it was marriage, and she became the queen.
Right.
However, she was Jewish.
Right.
And her uncle, her cousin Mordecai had adopted her and raised her, and he had a role of listening for gossip at the gate. That was his role, to protect the town. Did you know that? That was his job.
That was his job.
It was actually a job. And when he heard the gossip that the king's life was going to be threatened, that there were 2 eunuchs who didn't like him, and they were going to kill him, he got the word to Esther. Isn't that the order of things? Got the word to Esther.
Yeah. And
he wasn't allowed to come to the court. And
wait,
no.
Yeah.
I thought get it out of order. No.
Well, I thought it was Haman who was blaming all the Jews in the country.
Well, yeah, but what got Haman had this big position.
Right.
But Mordecai, the whole thing with Mordecai, the cousin, how he was involved is that he told Esther that the king's life was in danger.
Mm-hmm.
And so these 2 people who were threatening the king's life were killed, banished. And Mordecai was the cause of saving the king's life. But the king didn't know that it was Mordecai until Esther. Then Esther and Mordecai talked, but it was only later when the king read the book of everything that had been done, because he was bored. He read some details. Well, anyway, so Mordecai is, so Haman.
Haman's the bad guy.
Yeah, Haman didn't like Mordecai because Mordecai wouldn't bow to him.
Right, so Haman puts in a law that says all Jews must bow to me.
He didn't want to just specifically pick Mordecai. That wouldn't look good.
Right,
so he took all the peoples who were Jew.
Right.
But Esther was Jewish.
Right.
And it's questionable as to whether the king knew that or not. I have to think the king wasn't really with it.
So Mordecai says to Esther, you have to say to the king that this rule and this law is going to eliminate all Jews in the country. And Esther responds by saying to Mordecai, I don't think I have the right to do that unless he summons me into his...
Right, she couldn't. She was his wife, but she couldn't even go see him.
Right.
Unless she...
And Mordecai says, God has chosen you to do this right now, but if you don't want to do it, God will find another person to do it.
Right, but she
and
said,
Esther says...
Trust me.
Okay, yeah. I'll do it.
So she came up with this whole thing. I don't know what she actually said, but she spoke to the king. And he said, what would you like? And she said, I'd like you to come for dinner. I'm going to fix a really nice feast. Lots of drink and blah, blah, blah. And bring your chief henchman, Haman. And, I'll entertain them. And she said, well, you do that and I'll do anything you'd like. That'd be fine, right?
Right.
But she did that twice. But apparently after having a lot of drink, the king was bored. And that's when he read the book and realized that Mordecai had done this wonderful thing and saved his life. And so he turned to his henchman, Haman, and said, what should I do to honor somebody who's done a great thing? And Haman thought it was about himself.
Oh.
So Haman said, you should put him on a horse and dress him in gold and purple and go through town and honor him. Haman thinking it was all him.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
It was Mordecai.
It was Mordecai, and so then Haman was very ashamed. Very ashamed. And
in the end, Haman was hanged on the gallows that he had built for Mordecai.
Hung, he was impaled.
Okay, moving right along, we have Job's wife.
Well, but you know what I learned about this story is that it was beauty, but it was really a farce. And if you think about the Renaissance Festival and all those plays where something horrible is going to happen and somebody's walking in all at the wrong time, that this book doesn't mention God at all. It's not about God, but it's sort of a farcical story about sort of good winning over evil, I think. And you kind of know something's going to be bad. So the point was that he was impaled. Hanging was more common, but he was impaled.
This was even worse.
So this is a farce.
Okay.
Anyway, but Esther was beautiful.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Job's wife.
Oh, Job's wife. All right, what did Job's wife? Yeah.
Now we're in the book of Job, and you know well enough what happened to Job is that bad things started to happen to Job,
right.
And his friends kept saying, what have you done wrong? Why is God punishing you? Job's wife was I
think she acted like a wife.
Well, she loses 10 children in all of this.
Right.
And then says, what does she say?
She said, do you still persist in your integrity? Curse God and die. That's all she said. That's all this. So those are her only words in the Bible.
So Job's wife, in essence, says, get mad at God?
No, I think she's just really saying, you idiot. I mean, everybody else is having this theological discussion with Job. And Job is so good, he doesn't question anything. And his wife is, when are you going to get it? I mean, there's no question. No question. And I got to tell you, what do I think about her? I think, well, she was right on the money, but the fact that she stayed with him, I think most women today would be out of there. You lose 10 children, she'd be there or she'd be in a mental hospital. She'd be so depressed.
Yeah.
But then in the end, she ended up being rewarded with 10 new children. And although she's not talked about anymore, it's assumed that if Job had 10 more children, and it doesn't say anywhere she left, that she was the mother of 10 more children. And in the end, things worked out, but for all of them. And I kept thinking about, recently that family in Baltimore that had 9 children and 6 of them died in the fire, or something like that. And I'm just thinking, the situation and the heartbreak and giving birth and to all those children. How do you ever get through it? And I guess the book of Job is clearly all about suffering, but his wife, she's sort of a vessel of his children. And so it's kind of an understatement. Her having this one little sentence in the Bible. And I
11 words.
But I think that's part of the fun of this study, is that talking about what are the words that women actually say. So.
It is. Thank you, Izzy.
Thank you.
Good fun.
Yeah.